Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham on a day where we got a very, very crucial win against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League against our former manager Nuno Espirito Santo at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Now, the importance of this is massive because us and Aston Villa are having that little leapfrog competition. We know that fifth is very much a possibility this season to finish in the Champions League spot, but both clubs are desperately trying to do the business to make sure they finish in the top four, just in case that ends up not being enough. So, one change was made to the team with Pat Matasar returning to the starting lineup. That was coming in for Rodrigo Bentancur. Obviously, we needed to win this to clamber back fourth spot on goal difference. We do have a game in hand over Aston Villa as well, which is really important. That was after their 3-3 draw at home against Brentford, with on loan Spurs star Sergio Reguilon doing the business, grabbing 2 assists in that game. So thank you very much, Reggie, for that. That was massively helpful. As I said, we had to get past former boss Nuno Espirito Santo, making his first return to the club since that underwhelming spell that he had with us in 2021. He was only with us for, 4 months before being replaced by Antonio Conte. And then, comes back with a Forest team that was actually unbeaten in its previous 3 matches. It's been difficult for them because they've had the points deduction. And because of the result today, based on goal difference, they actually managed to stay out of the bottom 3. So they're just sitting above Luton in the Premier League table. But anyway, the game itself, we took the lead 15 minutes in. Another big involvement from Timo Werner. The guy is on fire at the moment. He's just doing the simple things, which is what I absolutely love. I've said many times at the beginning of the season, Ange Postecoglou loves drilling the guys into just getting by their man and whipping in a low ball across the box. Anything can happen from those. They're so dangerous. Striker can get on the end of it. Keeper can parry it out to another player. Defenders scoring own goals, which has happened in the last 2 games now. Or ultimately it leads to a corner. He put the low ball across the 6-yard box and it was diverted into the goal by Forest Murillo. Great work from Bazuma in the build-up. And it was our first half goal in our own stadium in 2024. Now that's quite worrying. Forest did actually level though before the half-hour mark. They broke swiftly. Alanga found way too much space to strike a low cross, which deflected into the path of Chris Wood to put home. The annoying thing about this was Udogie, and he knew he did it. The second the space was there, he knew that he should have tracked the man better. He put his head to the sky before the goal even came in. And it was actually unlucky. The deflection as the ball went underneath, it slowed the ball down for Wood to be able to tuck home. Both teams did hit the woodwork as well in the first half. As the first half progressed, and then Postecoglou made 2 changes at the break. He'd seen enough. Bentancur and Højbjerg were both introduced. They came on for Sarr and Bazuma, who, have had better days. Bazuma, we keep saying he's not been great since that suspension that he had earlier in the season. We saw him dropped from the international squad as well for Mali. It's not going great from him. I thought after being dropped from the international squad, we'd see a response from him and he'd really kick on. Hasn't been the case. He's been a bit underwhelming. And many of you all know that have been around for the last couple of years watching this channel that I love Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I know he's not always right for this system in the quality that he brings, but you can't deny that he puts in a shift. He does the great things. But we'll talk more about the players after this. We responded in the second half with 2 goals in quite quick succession. First, Mickey van der Ven absolutely demolished the ball from just inside the box. So what happened in this situation? The ball came into Johnson quite quickly and he was like, oh, I've got a bit of space. Hesitated too long, couldn't take the shot. Passes the ball into Sonny, who hasn't got enough room to shoot. Does a lovely little step over, lays it off to Mickey van der Ven. 1 touch out to his left, bang, absolutely rockets it. And every angle that Sky was showing it from just got better and better. The way it was, the very last angle they showed just from behind to the left, you see a defender sort of turning away, turning his back on it slightly, another defender trying to slide in, and it goes through between them. There was no chance the keeper was getting to it, to the point where he didn't even move. He absolutely walloped it. And Romero, in true fashion, in the celebration, thought it'd be a good idea to hit another Spurs teammate. He was patting him on the back so hard, but it was a lovely moment. Second goal of the season for him. The other one, a very important one, early in the season when we were down to 10 men at Luton, and this time round it swung the tide back in our favour. Then the second one, another defender scoring in this game, Pedro Porro, connecting with a half volley inside the area after Bentancur headed on James Maddison's cross. It was very well struck. I actually felt like he was afforded way too much room at the back post. There was a Forest player on the edge of the 18-yard box that definitely could have tracked inside. So, yeah, talking about the way we played, we came out the blocks flying. Forest got back into the game. It slowed us right down. We struggled to find our way back into it in a clinical sense. Then, in true fashion, when we've had a poor first half, we came up flying in the second half. I do think the substitutions made a massive, massive difference. I'm actually happy that Postecoglou's got the bottle to make the substitutions there and then to, sort of drill it home. I do think Bazuma has been very poor. Sarri's still very young, so I'm not going to overly criticise him. He's a young guy that plays a lot of football. So I can't expect him to be amazing every single game. He does have moments. There were some good moments in the first half. His energy just really gets us through. But, in a tough game like this one, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg really helps. And I think Bentancur being next to Pierre is only a good thing, because I feel like with the injuries that Bentancur's had, when he's next to, say, Sarr, who, has a lot of energy and wanders off, it means that Bentancur has to be way more disciplined. But when he's next to Højbjerg, he's got the discipline that actually helps him. So let's talk about all the players individually. So Vicario in goal. Couldn't really do much about Wood's first half strike. Did a nice save from Yates down low not too long after, and made himself big on the follow-up, which Wood smashed and it hit the post. But apart from that, he didn't have too much else to do. So, yeah, another decent game from Vicario. Just a shame that, once again, we conceded a goal. Porro at right wing-back wasn't his best game. He's had a few where he's been a bit off. So he's a bit off the pace in the first half. Made up for it with that powerful second half volley, though. The half volley, that flew into the top of the net. So average performance from him. Into the centre, Christian Romero was a bit unlucky that his slide was the one that actually, the one on the Elanga cross, it actually slowed it down, deflected it into the path of Wood. But he did what he had to do there. Defended well on the whole. Apart from a couple of fouls, one misplaced pass late in the second half. There was quite a nice moment, actually, where he was up against Origi and he didn't deal with it initially as well as he should have. And then it bounced and he sort of misread it, but he managed to recover. His strength was very key in that. And, all Spurs fans know Origi is a player that is the thorn in our backside. Champions League final. His partner, Mickey van der Ven, had no choice at all but to try to cover for the really poor AWOL moment of Udogie for Forest's first half leveller. Obviously didn't get there, but made his mark with the rocket that we spoke about in the second half just inside the box. Really good display from him. I felt I'd say we missed him. We didn't miss him too badly in the games he wasn't there for, because I felt like Dragushin, bearing in mind he's brand new to the Premier League, did quite well in the games that he was called into action, but he's a massive miss when he's not there, in the sense that he's composed, he's quick, he's strong, and as we've seen, he can smash the ball. He made a lovely run later in the game as well, where there was like 2 attempts to tackle him and he won the ball through that both times. Moving on to Destiny Udogie, who continues his hit and miss vein of form, I would say. Left way too much space behind him for Forest's first half goal that we discussed. Should have tracked back, and he knew it himself. Improved in the second half as he got to grips with most of Forest's attacks down his flank. But yeah, very much an average performance from him. Pat Matasar, pretty quiet first half on the whole. And then was hooked at half time for it. And that's a good learning curve for him, actually, that, the manager will take him off and be like, it's not good enough, we need to see more. His midfield partner, Yves Bissouma, started the game pretty brightly. I will say and there were some fans watching the game near me in the pub, and none of us were happy at Bissouma's shooting. It's quite weak. When it is on target, it happens to be at the goalkeeper. The closest he actually got to scoring a goal in the end was one that, I think it was a corner that had worked its way out to him, and he hit it quite poorly. It was definitely going wide. A defender stuck his foot out to block it. That then took it onto Chris Wood's head, and that was the closest he got to scoring, and that was probably his worst shot. But yeah, his dribble was key in the build-up to the opening goal, so a little bit of credit there. But yeah, he faded at the end of the half, and he was not welcomed back out for the second. James Maddison, another one, he's still not quite hitting his stride, and it's one of them where I really wanted James Maddison in the summer. He obviously started the season very well. The injury obviously meant he wasn't playing, but he's come back and he's not really been in that rich vein of form. He's taken his time to get there. And I wonder, with Postecoglou being a bit cutthroat with, the likes of Sarr and Bissouma, are we going to see a chance for Lo Celso to start again? Because Maddison tried a lot of things in this game and they just didn't quite come off. The quality wasn't there. There was actually a pass at one moment where I thought he should have played it out wide, and then he tried to play it through the middle near the end of the box, and it was quite predictable. The defender read it, and I'm like, maybe, just maybe, Lo Celso's going to edge for a start at some point over him. And I know there's going to be a lot of people screaming, going, how could you say such a thing? But look, you got to do what's right at the moment, and Madders just isn't quite clicking. Brennan Johnson almost scored in the first half with a reaction shot from Werner's ball, which was matched by a very good reaction save from Sells. And I'd just like to point out, I know in a couple of times that I've been speaking, I've mentioned a player from an opposition that stood out, and definitely their goalkeeper, Sells. I thought without him today, it could have been a much bigger scoreline. He was excellent at times. And had it been a day where we hadn't have got that important goal from Van de Ven, it could have been a very frustrating day for us. But yeah, back to Johnson. Had a deflected cross hit the crossbar before half-time. Went on a really good run in the second half, which almost brought an assist, only for Sonny's shot to be pushed onto the post again by Sells. And then could have had a goal and an assist on any other day, really. An okay performance from him. And I understand against his former club, it was always going to be a bit of a tense one. Luckily, he was at home, though. But in terms of defensively, I thought he was eager to do his work, which I was happy with. Sonny through the middle. Tough game up front. Battled away. Got an assist for Van de Ven's goal. Almost scored himself, but yeah, Sells palmed it onto the right-hand post. And I've said it before, I think there's just some games where he struggles. Certain defensive setups he struggles against. And that was another one today. He was fairly quiet in the creative department. I know I said he got an assist, but just not his normal self. And I don't think that's his fault, really. It's just, we didn't really have any other options. Obviously, Richarlison, they made the decision that, he could have been on the bench, but he wasn't right for the last game when he came on. So they made the decision that it's more important to rest him now and save him for that run-in. Everybody now, till the end of the season, is going to be so important. And I think Postecoglou's been speaking about that after this game, about just how important everybody in the squad is going to be. Timo Werner, another goal involvement. It won't officially count as an assist, because of an own goal. I don't understand why an own goal, it doesn't count as an assist, because I suppose I get it, but if the defender hadn't have got there, I know there was another defender behind him, but there was Brennan Johnson in the middle, and then there was someone else at the back post. It might have been Porro, I can't remember. But somebody was going to score that. So I still think it should go down as an assist. So Murillo put the ball into his own net. Soon after, he fired in another similar cross that Johnson's shot was saved. The keeper just made himself very big from close range. Sent in a few more really dangerous low balls in the second half. Was a constant threat to Forest and was involved in the build-up to the third goal. And I think the fans are really starting to appreciate him. Now, in terms of this discussion Do we keep him at the end of the season? I know a lot of it, we were saying earlier on, was going to come down to what happens with Solomon. Almost forgot his name because he hasn't played for that long. Manor Solomon, our free agent. And I think at this stage, because we don't know what's going to happen with Richarlison in the summer, I would say for 15 million, just buy him, because although he doesn't do anything that sets the world alight, he does the job he's asked. He holds his position really wide, which means either a defender has to stay out wide with him, or the second they tuck in, there's loads of space. And his game is very, very simple. I know in front of goal he hasn't been amazing, but he's scored a couple of goals. His contributions in assists / semi-assists for the own goals are very important. But his game is so simple. He gets the ball, he charges down wide, he'll slow himself down, do a step over, push it further out wide, drill a low crossing, and it is so dangerous, but so simple. And this is what Postecoglou has been asking our players to do. And he's doing it. So for 15 million, I know people are saying, oh, he's not like an amazing player, he doesn't set the world alight. He guarantees us goals, not necessarily from him, but from his build-up play. And to me, that's quite valuable. And this is what I loved about Perisic as well. I know, the pace is very different between the two, but it's a very similar thing they did. Once they had the ball out wide, they slowed the player down. Timo just knocks it on to run past them and whip it in. And then what Perisic would do, he would do a step over to take that touch out wide to whip it in. Quite often, it would be a looped or more aerial ball from Perisic, low balls from Timo, but the end result is all the same. So I actually think for 15 million, it makes sense. I would definitely take him, even if he's not going to be starting constantly. It doesn't bother me. So let's talk about the substitutes. At half-time, we saw the introduction of Bentancur and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. So Bentancur brought a calm head to the pitch when we needed it, alongside Højbjerg. Bentancur actually got the assist for the third goal, even if it was perhaps attempting to maybe header at goal. Not too sure. At first, it looked like he was. Then you watch the replay back and you're like, was he just trying to get something on it to keep the ball in? But yeah, I feel like he played better because he was next to Højbjerg. So let's just move on to him. Really helped us grab control of that game in the second half. He was excellent for pretty much all of it, other than a couple of loose passes around our own box in the final 10 minutes. But everything he did was great. His energy, where we talk about this high press that Postecoglou likes, you defend from the front. Højbjerg was quite often up there when we'd lost possession. And one thing he was so good at was just winning that ball back to set us back on the break, whether it be from a sliding tackle, a little foot poking in. I thought the majority of his passing was very good. He attempted some long balls that were, although they didn't always come off, they were on target to where they were meant to be. Had a lovely shot as well at one point. Let's briefly talk about the moment of, from the fans in the pub. It seemed like the moment of madness, but actually it's very much what our players are told to do. So when he was inside the box, around sort of like the edge of it, the ball was played into him and he quickly swept it out to the left, right, to Udogie's area. Wasn't quite enough power on it, didn't make it, was intercepted. But from that moment, every single Spurs player in that box threw their body on the line to make sure that there was no official shot going to make its way to that goal for Vicario. In Højbjerg's defence, I know a lot of us were a bit like, and this is something that I wanted to talk about, but I obviously haven't reviewed the last, haven't been on here to talk about the last couple of games. Bizuma has been doing this exact same thing constantly. So it's not that it's poor play from the guys, it's what they're being drilled to do. And it's very much something that they will get better at in time. So the goalkeeper will have the ball. Defensive midfielder will drop in. Goalkeeper plays the ball completely straight, and they will make a decision whether to splay it left or right, depending on which one makes more sense at the time. Bizuma has done this several times on the edge of our box or a couple of yards in front and lost possession. So it's actually the first time we've seen Højbjerg do this so close to goal, playing that thing. But that's exactly what Postecoglou wants. The ball comes in quickly to a holding midfielder, spread it either way, then we work our way down the wings to then either cut inside or do what we need to do. So they're told to do this, and Postecoglou never goes mad about it. I know Højbjerg was apologising for like a couple of minutes after because it put us in a dangerous situation. but it is what they're told to do. So I'm not overly going to criticise him for it. I know some of you will, because there's a lot of people out there that are Højbjerg haters, especially after him being on international duty, moaning about his lack of game time. But Postecoglou completely understands that as well and knows that he's unhappy with that. But in this scenario, we weren't quite cutting the mustard in the first half. He was entrusted to come in and do a job, and he did. Moving on to the other substitutes, Giovanni Lo Celso came on for the final 15 minutes, tried to make things happen, but struggled to, ultimately because the game had started getting a bit bitty and Nottingham Forest were tired. There was that moment where, was it Danilo, is that his name, made that tackle, followed through, and the foul was on Lo Celso. So there were some people that on social media were saying, like, why is Højbjerg taking the free kick and not Lo Celso? Now, I'm pretty sure the reason why Højbjerg ended up taking it instead of Lo Celso is because he'd just taken some studs high up on the leg. I know he was there or thereabouts in the discussion to take it, but I think ultimately he was like, do you know what? Let me recover for a couple of minutes. So I do feel sorry for him because he'd only been on the pitch like a couple of minutes. In my opinion, if Nuno Espirito Santo is moaning, saying that James Maddison's like rash moment where he punched a player in the ribs should have been a red card, then this challenge definitely should have been a red card. It was very, very similar to when Romero got sent off for trying to clear the ball aggressively and following through. And I think this one might have actually been around the same height as well on the leg. So a little bit surprised. Well, I say I'm surprised. I'm not surprised once again at the inconsistency of the refereeing. Dejan Kulusevski, another substitute, had 2 or 3 big opportunities actually to play other people in the final third, but failed to do so. He was very hesitant. There was a moment where he definitely, it was a lovely ball actually from Lo Celso, good contribution. Swept the ball first time, round out to the left. Kulusevski just slowed the ball down. There was a screaming Dane Scarlett wanting the ball to come through, and he didn't play it. But that could be just because he wasn't up to the speed of the game. Dane Scarlett himself was introduced as well, just for the final minutes at the end of the game. Tried to battle away, but ultimately, every time he kind of comes on, it's so late in the game. People are tired. We're trying to, we had a 2-goal cushion. We're just trying to make sure that we win the game at this point. So the risk-taking in terms of through balls and that aren't as forthcoming as they probably would be if it was earlier in the game. So yeah, that leaves us in 4th spot, that game. It also leaves us in a great position with a game in hand over Aston Villa. So another 3 points would be great. So that game will be against Newcastle. So that is Saturday the 13th of April. That is a 12:30 kickoff. It is away at Newcastle. But yeah, they're a team that, their form's been a bit up and down. It's all down to that Champions League campaign and the amount of injuries that they've had. But yeah, just a brief talk on the week of fixtures that I didn't get to talk to you about. So we obviously had the win against Luton. And Luton are one of those teams, if you look at their results and where they are in the league, it doesn't quite reflect the way they've been playing. They've been just about there in every game. They've been a very, very tough opponent to beat. But I think in terms of quality going forward, they're just lacking that striker that's got that killer instinct. But, they're a good team. I felt like they played pretty well at times. They were resilient. We just had the quality to get past them in the game. And then the other one, West Ham, at their stadium, we've struggled there, let's face it. We knew it was going to be a tough game. And to be fair, we have difficult games against them at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. So we knew that was going to be a difficult one. Ultimately, we'd love that. We all say every time it's West Ham's cup final, they always turn up against us. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it was a tough one. They do put a lot of men behind the ball. But they do have the quality when they break. You think they've, Jared Bowen, a player that we were actually looking at before he went to West Ham. Mikel Antonio always seems to play well against us. Like, they do have the pace out on the wings, so they'll sit in really tight against us and they're able to counter-attack really well. They've got some great quality in their side. Very difficult team to beat. Yeah, and actually we haven't beat them at their place since, 2019 under Jose Mourinho. So it just goes to show, sort of like the levels in the Premier League. There are no easy games whatsoever. So yeah, apologies that I didn't manage to review those last two games, but narrowly we'll just put it there. That's what it is. A week in the life of Spurs. I know that's very brief that I've spoken about, but yeah, those players that scored. So you had Brennan Johnson, who's been on a great run of late because he was doing well for Wales as well. He keeps popping up like in the middle to finish off those balls coming in from the wingers. And then obviously the disappointing equaliser, Kurt Zouma, the cat kicker himself. And then in the game against Luton at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, it was an own goal. Sonny got a goal, and Luton, it was Chong that put them ahead after 3 minutes. So, yeah, let me just close my computer there. Are we on track? Yes, we are. We're on track. It's been a difficult season. We've had to use a lot of the squad with the injuries, but the business that we've done in the transfer market has been good. The attitude of the players is good. It's to get Champions League football from the first season of Ange Postecoglou in charge, I think is a very good thing. What he did at Celtic was always going to happen because Celtic are one of the top two teams in Scotland. It's very much like the Spanish league where it was always Barcelona and Real Madrid. So with us, it was going to be more difficult because we're starting from a further down position. You've only got to look at the likes of Manchester United, look how far they've fallen. Chelsea, I think what they're sitting in, is it 8th or 9th now? Because they come away with a draw today. They took the lead both times, lost the lead. Yeah, it just goes to show that's how difficult it is in the Premier League at the moment. When you make these changes, it's a while for new managers to really stamp their authority and get their ideas across, but Postecoglou's managed to do that quite early on. And as I said, with a bit more rotation early on in the season, we might have been in a slightly better position. But ultimately, you live and learn. And I think we're on the right track. And the second season under Ange, every team he's been at is quite often better than the first. So just imagine what we've got to look forward to next year. And if we get that Champions League spot, that strengthens us in the transfer market in terms of the quality of player that will want to come to Spurs. But he was actually asked about this in an interview about will Champions League, will having the money be beneficial? And he simply turned around and used Newcastle as the example. Look what happened to them. They've got all this money. Obviously, they've had to be sensible with it because of financial fair play. But he said, they're in Europe and they've found it very difficult despite the fact that they've got the money as well. It's not always about the money. It's about the recruitment, finding the right players to fit into the squad. And I actually feel like starting lineup-wise, by next season, Vicario's been amazing in goal. So I'm just going to work my way through the squad here. Yeah, Vicario's been amazing. So we don't need to improve on a second there. I feel like another season from Fraser Forster will be absolutely fine, with Whiteman and Brandon Austin continuing to develop. In terms of left back, Udogie will have this season under his belt and he's been excellent, obviously a bit inconsistent because of his age, but he'll have a whole pre-season again to work on the things that he struggled with this year, so he should be more consistent, resilient next season. And then we'll find out, are we going to keep Reguilon or Sessegnon, or one of them will probably go. Centre-backs, I think we're pretty well covered with Romero and Van der Ven as starters. Dragushin, obviously, a more than reliable backup. We'll see what happens with Tanganga after his loan. Joe Rodon will probably be the most likely to go because he'll command the best fee, which is a shame because actually he'd be the best backup of him or Tanganga. But I understand that with his talent, he's not going to want to spend another season on the bench, especially after playing like every game for Leeds. At right back, Porro, still a bit inconsistent. I don't know what will happen with Emerson Royale. He very much does like being at Spurs. But you've also got Jed Spence coming back, and depending on what happens with him pre-season. So we may be searching for another right wing back. Into the midfield, Bentancur will have time in pre-season to really get back to form. No problems with Sarr. Højbjerg will probably go, which is a shame because I absolutely love him, and I know there's loads of Spurs fans that don't, but there are some of us that understand his value within the squad. Bazuma, yeah, hopefully will sort out some of his confidence issues and what's been going on there, but he should be a better player next season. Maddison, I have no doubt, will get back to full strength at some point. Giovanni Lo Celso, unfortunately, will probably move on, and that's mainly because James Maddison's here, but at the moment, I actually think of the two of them, Lo Celso should be the one starting, especially with the way he plays for Argentina, and this is finally a system that suits him, and he's never had proper game time. I know he's injury prone, but he's never been given a real chance at Spurs because all the systems haven't suited him. I mean, he was brought in for Pochettino, and Poch left pretty quick after he was signed. So, in terms of on the wing, Manos Solomon should be fit next season. On the left, sorry. Timo Werner hopefully will stay, so that's two of them. Excellent. You're looking on the right, Brennan Johnson, absolutely fine. Kulusevski, okay, but I actually don't think he fits this system very well. So if Lo Celso goes, I would assume Kulusevski will be the backup in the number 10 role, and then we'll need another right winger. Up top, we do need a striker to come in. The talks are, I can't remember his name now, but the guy from the Dutch league, someone put it in the comments. And then also Ivan Toney, because it looks like Arsenal have dwindled in their efforts to bring him in, but Manchester United are hot on the radar for him as well. So, but like Sonny can obviously play across. He's better on the left or through the middle than he is on the right. Richarlison can play anywhere, but we'll see what happens with him in the summer. There are talks that Troy Parrott, we will accept a bid for him. He's obviously injured at the moment, but he's been playing well for Excelsior. There are talks that Ajax want him, as well as, I think it's Freiburg, and they've been quite good at recognising young talent and turning them around. So he might get a move to the Bundesliga, which I think would be a very good move for him. However, I would rather we extend his contract and send him out on loan to Freiburg first. And obviously with a longer contract, that'll bump the price up a little bit for him. Dane Scarlett, I don't know what's going to happen with him. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know what I'm talking about this like this because we're nowhere near the transfer window. But yeah, thanks very much for sticking around. I hope you have enjoyed this. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. And until next time, come on you Spurs.